Tommy Cooper will always be remembered as one of our greatest comedians, but did you know he was Welsh? Today, in his birthplace of Caerphilly in South Wales, and before a large crowd, one of his greatest fans, Hollywood legend Sir Anthony Hopkins, unveiled a 9-foot statue in his honour. Well, in our central London studios, the stand-up comedian and TV presenter Joy Carter. Joy, thanks very much for joining us. You know, looking at Sir Anthony Hopkins there, doing his impersonation of Tommy Cooper, it does remind you that his biographer once said that on anyone else's lips, his jokes would have been hopeless. But delivered by Tommy with all his childlike innocence and charm, it made an audience roar.
Yeah, he had the ability to really connect with an audience and really engage with them, make them feel like they were the only people there. And he was always just so that boyish, churlish, sort of muddlesome way of, oh, it might go right, might not, and oh, let's see what happens. We're all in it together. It was fantastic. And even off stage, he was just like that as well. Always, you know, like, for example, if he was getting a cab or a taxi, he'd often say to the cab driver, here's a little something for later. Now, the cab driver would think it was like going to be like a £5 tip or a £10 tip. That should just be, you know, have a drink on me, a tea bag. Brilliant. He was just great.
Well, that was just plain old tight-fisted, wasn't it, Joy? Handing a taxi driver a tea bag.
It was a bit mead-fisted, and also what with his drinking and all the rest of it, but he was a genius. And he was very much a comedian's comedian as well, just because he was so self-deprecating, always, you know, always just going, this is me, like it or lump it. And that's what we really love in this country. That's what comedy is about, just being yourself, rain or shine, always banging out the gags, and they were fantastic.
He did have a fairly tempestuous life. His marriage was a pretty rocky one, although his wife stuck with him throughout his entire life. A lot of problems with the booze, 20 cigars a day, illnesses that went with that and so forth. It reminds us again of this old adage that comedians need a bit of suffering in their life to be able to get the humour out. Is that fair?
I think a lot of comedy is born out of just a hardship, because you are on the road. I mean, I'm always on the road. You're driving up the motorways, you're eating those dodgy pies at 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, it's a really hard life. And you know, he was drinking constantly, and with everything else, the smoking, and he never stopped drinking. He did cut down towards the end, but he never really stopped. And dear old Gwen, she was a long-suffering wife. I mean, you know, she is somebody that I think Hillary Clinton could really aspire to. You know, because it was just everything. But a lot of it is born out of comedies come out of pain, and that was a man who, you know, he was actually a very shy man in many ways. And he said his drinking really brought out that ability to even walk on stage. So very troubled.
What about his jokes, Joy? Do you ever use any of his material? Ever tell any Tommy Cooper jokes?
I couldn't even go anywhere near any of his stuff. But I do love one of his gags where he said, a man went to the doctor with a strawberry on his head. The doctor looked at him and said, I'll give you some cream to put on that. Classic. Just brilliant.
That and the tea bag, Joy. Thanks very much indeed. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.